What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Double Coverage. We hope you're still living, loving, and breathing sports. I'm Dom with the great man Sauce. How you going, mate?
How are we, Doma? We've got a big guest on the show today.
Big
We're
guest.
we're happy and excited to have him on. It's the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Hoj, from the House of Jordans podcast and one of the creators of Cardladder, which is one of our favorite platforms to use. We're always using that on the show every week in the Hobby Talk segment and in the Saucy Smoky segment. So uh, we love your work that they've done out there. And over to you, Chris. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Dom and John, thank you for having me on the show. I believe I was in the first 10 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I believe I was one of
Let's
the
go.
first 10. Does that give me like a gold parallel or something?
Yeah. Chris Hoj 101 gold parallel double coverage. That's what you want.
And I always have my eye out for content creators, especially because I don't have time to make content anymore. I used to make a lot of content. I used to, do House of Jordans. Like we got up to once a week for a while, which I don't know how you guys do it because it's a lot of work. But I got up to that level, and then too many things started happening, and something had to get the axe, and it was making our weekly podcast. But I'm always listening to stuff, right? I'm always listening. So, when you guys podcast came on my radar, it was awesome. I was an early adopter of double coverage. So it's awesome to be on here. And hopefully this will be the first of, many collaborations that we do. So yeah, dude, thank you guys for having me on here, man. Looking forward to talking sports, hobby, everything.
Awesome. Yeah, once again, thank you so much. But just a quick background. So for double coverage listeners, if you don't know Chris, as you mentioned, he runs the House of Jordans podcast. And as Source mentioned, he is one of the creators of Cardladder. Just a bit of a background into how you got into House of Jordans, the podcast, and then how you decided to just go from the podcast and then develop Cardladder, which is now one of the most used products in the hobby.
Sure. House of Jordans started in December of 2018 was when we put our first episode out. So about 2 years ago, and which is a long time in the hobby. 2 years is an eternity in hobby years. And before that, I had been back in the hobby for about 2.5 years. I came back in the summer of 2016, and I started collecting Michael Jordan cards, and I just did that exclusively for years. And then there was a lot of people in the Jordan card world who just wanted content. And so, myself, my cousin Bryant, and my fiance Christina, we all just started a podcast. And first it was once a month, and then we got up to once a week, and we branched off. We went first, it was just Michael Jordan, but then we branched off into other products, into other players and stuff. And by the end, we were pretty comprehensive of the hobby. We were talking about everything from Topps Project 2020 to Luca to everything else. And so that was a lot of fun. Making content is just fun, man. I'll break some news here on your show. We are going to be bringing back some content soon, because I have my brother is like a great video producer. He's directed and shot movies. And he's kind of like a jack of all trades, whether it's cinematography, filming, directing. And so under the Cardladder brand, we're going to be bringing some content back to the world, to YouTube. So, that is coming. And that's very exciting. Nice. Okay, so that's bridging the gap from like House of Jordans to what's forthcoming. But that's all I can say about that for right now. And so what happened was I had been I always loved studying the market. And you like back when I started my Instagram in 2016, back when I started collecting cards, even back then I was screenshotting eBay sales and commenting on it, and it was very basic, very, very basic. But I go back and I read that stuff from time to time. And then eventually it turned into, people would criticize me and they'd say, you're posting a screenshot of the Michael Jordan sticker PSA 9 sale from eBay, and like you're saying like, oh, this is a big sale. Like, so what? Like, contextualize it. What does it mean? What did it used to sell for? Like, is this a believable sale? Like, people like got on me and they were like, you need to do more. You need to be more thoughtful. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I could do better. And I could take more time to make more thoughtful posts. So I started doing that. And I started, researching and like putting the time in to take an hour and look and put in the last 100 sales of a card into a spreadsheet and turn it into a graph and screenshot that and post it and look up what the population report is and like put that information in the graphic that I created. And so this was like a very rudimentary card ladder, years and years ago now. And but my problem is I'm technologically stunted. I know how to use Excel, but I don't know how to develop websites or build software or anything like that. But Josh from Cardboard Chronicles, who's my fellow co-founder with Cardladder, is a brilliant developer. In his professional life, he's a developer. And then it turns out that the work that he did in building the Cardladder user interface, it was remarkable. It was absolutely remarkable. So, I kind of brought the data point of view to things. He brought the developer software point of view to things. And, I just graduated from law school. And during my final year of law school, COVID hit. In that March was my last semester in law school. And so when that happened, suddenly I'm no longer driving to the campus. All the classes have gone remote. Everything went pass fail. All of a sudden I have some time. And so we had been talking about this idea for a long time, and we had been kind of like using data, but just keeping it to ourselves and, mapping it and stuff. And like, we did a lot for House of Jordans too, data mapping. But we were like, hey, would people like this? Like, would people like a more, very nerdy approach where, hey, one of the things that I was very insistent on, and Josh agreed with me, was we need to have all-time sales histories. It's not enough to look at the last 3 months. It's not enough to look at the last year. We're going to take the time up front and we're going to do the research to using a number of sources and cross-checking data and verifying it, so that if we're looking at a 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron PSA 10, we have every sale, or as close to every sale as possible, going all the way back to 2003 that happened on eBay. And so that's always kind of been our belief system, is that we want to just, create a sterling data set that tells the story of the hobby and do it for the hobby and for collectors who just love and get fascinated by that. Like, do you need to know what the card sold for in 2003 to make an investment? No. But if you're a hobbyist and you love collecting cards, like, does it kind of pique your interest? Like, how much did LeBron sell for when he first came out? Like, yeah, like that is really fun, interesting, nerdy stuff that we like. So that's what we did is we started developing and building this software, and we were like, okay, we're going to release a minimum viable product. And we really met the definition of that term. It was the minimum viable. And we got a lot of critiques when we came out. We only had 500 cards in our system. We didn't have many features. And, we had one guy who's now become a friend of ours, but he was criticizing us. He was like, this isn't even a real site. This is just a Kickstarter, and if you just want to fund these guys while they try to build a real site, go for it. And so we just had to take all the criticism in stride and, tried to build and develop the site. And people always want it faster, like more cards, more stuff. And it's like, we're working as fast as we can, but you have to be, and we really believe in being really careful in constructing data carefully and thoroughly. And not everybody understands why we do things like build all-time sales histories and stuff like that. But like, as time rolls on and as like, now we have 5,500 cards in the system, people I think now are like, okay, so maybe this was a little frustrating at first, but now there's 5,500 cards in the database and all of them have all-time sales histories. And I can go use the compare tool and like see how the 2009 Topps Chrome Curry and the 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron and the 1996 Topps Chrome Kobe all pretty much have been a similar value for like 15 years. And so one extrapolation you could make from that is like if one of those cards gets really hot, maybe the other two are soon to follow. So like there's lots of really fun little pieces of data, in the data set. I'm definitely like making this a long-winded answer, but that's kind of like where we are now is my job and my role, which I am very humbled and appreciative to have in the hobby, is that I'm like I don't know. I watch data. I just watch data. Like every night, I review anywhere between 750 and 1,500 eBay sales, which is about how many sell of the 5,500 cards in our database. Every single one of those sales is approved or denied. Every single one. And that allows me to filter out stuff that's bad data.
So that must be one of the most frustrating things coming out of the eBay system, surely. The fact people are writing PSA 10 question mark at the end of titles, and that's probably coming up in your algorithm and saying that this card's a PSA 10 when it's not a PSA 10. It's just a raw card or something like that. And
it's extremely frustrating. The good news is that even though eBay's search methods do not let you remove terms that end with a question mark, which is extremely frustrating, we've been able to build our own infrastructure that does.
That's
so
awesome.
It's over many months of troubleshooting and frustration. We've been able to like troubleshoot and fix a lot of those problems that would drive me crazy when people would. And I still want to write, like, I think one of our other researchers, Christina, is working on writing an article that's going to like be full of tips, like how to label your eBay listings. Here's the thing that's giving me headaches now. So NBA Gold Diamond, and Black Diamond, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's a grading company that grades slabs.
Yes, I've seen it. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Sorry, I did not know about this. So we're grading.
So they're grading
cards that are graded, and we're grading the slab of the graded card.
Yes.
Yes.
Come to now.
Yeah. Yes. And so this, I've been told, I was very skeptical of it, and then I've been told that this happens in comic books. This has been going on for a long time. And it happens in the coin industry as well. And, you kind of have like this PWCC kind of like grade slabs sometimes too, which is also a huge headache when I'm trying to approve or deny those sales. But the NBA is a particularly frustrating situation because the name of the certifications that NBA gives are called either like silver diamond or gold diamond. And so I have, for example, like somebody alerted me to the fact that there's a Luka courtside silver that's at auction with Probstein right now. And my search query for eBay wasn't picking it up. And I was like, why not? Well, it's because we've removed gold from the search query. But every time, now there's an NBA gold diamond and the seller puts it in the title, now you have Luka Doncic courtside silver PSA 10 gold diamond NBA. And so now I'm having to retrace my steps and like fix hundreds of search queries so that we don't exclude these cards anymore. It's that's a little insight into the life of a sports card eBay researcher.
I can't wait till we have to grade the graded card. From that graded company, we're going to grade that graded company that graded the graded card.
We're going to be grading the gold diamond to get a pristine diamond next, I think. Something along those lines.
And then at the end, it'll say question mark, could be this, if it was graded, regraded. That's one frustration that obviously John and I face if we're on eBay and we look at those listings and we look at it from like your point of view as well through Cardladder, trying to get the correct data. And it's one thing we have spoken about in terms of like if you get a 10 from BGS, it's a 10. You don't need to say it could be a PSA 10 or it could be this. If you're going to do that, put that in the description. Don't put that in the listing. It got a 10 because it's a 10. Like,
and you're so right. And it never, in my experience, I haven't done a study of this, but in my anecdotal experience of looking at this, it never adds any value to the listing if you have a BGS 9 and then you put in parentheses PSA 10 crossover. Those in my experience do not get higher bids. They don't sell for more money. So whatever the purpose was for putting it in there, it's not working.
It's to annoy you, Chris. It's to annoy you.
It's just to frustrate you.
He's there. It's to frustrate you. Like,
it's like, what can we do to get on his nerves today?
Then it is working very well.
But as we've seen with the graded companies, we won't get into too much because I know you've spoken about it on.
Yeah, he's spoken about it at length with Josh on the crossover. So, like, I mean, I don't want to keep hyping over the whole
we've
beating on the old stick.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like we've spoken about it enough. You've spoken about it enough in terms of like the delay times and getting back your cards, and we're trying to tell the people, like, you just got to not wake up. We're not trying to criticize them, but it's like, it's there. The info is there. Don't wait for them to release it for you to then realize, oh, there's a backlog. We've been reporting it for months beforehand. It's been there. So, but one thing that's come out of that now, BGS specifically, and I think you also have spoken about this, but we want to go into it a bit more and try and see if we can come up with a bit of a solution. But fake slabs clearly are an issue. And John and I spoke about this just before you jumped on and said, like, obviously any market that's making money is going to get people coming across trying to, like, make a buck, really. And whether it's through legitimate sales or illegitimate products,
regardless of what you say, there's evil people out there that will always try to dupe other people for their own benefit. It happens across all parts of life and all industries. So, but what my biggest opinion is, the way that Beckett sort of handled that situation and was probably substandard in my eyes. And at the end of the day, if a consumer buys a fake slab, who's going to get blamed? Like, Beckett's going to get blamed. Like, it's not. I understand it's buyer be wary, but like, if the fake slab is that good and you don't really know, you're probably only 2 months into the trading cards, or 1 month into sports cards, and you buy the fake slab, like, Beckett is going to get the blame, and they're going to cop the media backlash or the social media backlash, not the guy. I mean, people are going to point him out and laugh at him because he's bought a fake slab, that's for sure. But like, they're going to cop a lot of the backlash. So I just think there could be other things that could be done, and I've listened to your conversation on the crossover with Josh, and you had some cool ideas and some ideas that I've also thought about as well, of what can be done to prevent this and make it that the slabs are more secure. So I was thinking maybe just like, because I don't want to hype on about this a bit too much, but it would be more like a brainstorm, a quick brainstorm of what these grading companies could be doing, and this clip will definitely get cut and cut out, and we'll be tagging both the grading companies and letting them know that this is free. This is free advice. Like, this is free advice. Look, and this is my opinion, Chris. And you have a look at the Collectors Universe share prices and where they've gone in the last 6 to 7 months. Back down at $20 a share, and now they're up to $75 a share. They're getting a lot of money pumped into this company, a hell of a lot of money, most money they've ever seen. And I've read their quarterly report to their shareholders. And they're saying that their biggest growth has been in their PSA sector, so the card grading sector, and they could be doing a lot more with all the money that's getting pumped in and reinvesting that money to make these things more secure. Now, in your eyes, your thoughts on that situation, just briefly, and then we'll have a quick brainstorm.
Yeah, many thoughts. So, for a long time in the hobby, especially as like a 90s collector, collectors were very worried about counterfeit cards themselves, right? And we developed, especially the more seasoned collectors, developed ways to analyze fake cards, because making fake cards, especially like of the stuff of the 90s that they were faking, like big men on court, that insert, it's a very sophisticated die cut. And then there's a Z-Pete parallel that has a fully foil surface. And then, or like rubies, like these, to replicate the card stock, the ink quality, the finish, using like modern tech is very difficult. If you kind of like piece together stories from people who were involved in manufacturing cars from the 90s, the investment into technology and artwork in particular was higher then than it is now, because now it's really about like memorabilia. That's where a lot of the sports cars are focusing their resources, is buying player assets, which is signatures and memorabilia. So in other words, it's very difficult using modern tech to replicate 90s cards, but still people were making things that were borderline passable fakes. And so that's what everybody's always worried about, was like these really rare high-end 90s cards being counterfeited. Now we have this totally different problem where as far as I know, that LeBron silver that was in the fake BGS slab, like the card wasn't fake. The slab was fake, right? Like, so wait a minute, so we have all these cards. The problem isn't getting our hands on the cards. We have all these cards. The problem is getting them into slabs. And so you almost think, the cost to develop or acquire or get your hands on the technology to make these fake slabs is probably pretty high. And would we even have a fake slab issue if the grading companies were producing turnaround times that were efficient? Like, would there even be a need? Because it's so cheap to grade your cards, especially if you go like the bulk route, that one wonders. But the point that I'm getting at here is, now that we have fake slabs, you have to look at like, okay, so maybe one of the issues is, and I say now we have fake slabs. We've had fake slabs for decades. Michael Jordan, 1986 Fleer, there have been well-documented cases of fake PSA holders containing 86 Fleer, and PSA made a lot of steps to fix it. But with BGS, like, one of the issues that we have to figure out now is, like, we have so many cards that were not worth grading 3 years ago, and now suddenly they all are worth grading. And that's created these big backlogs with the grading companies. And that's created impatient people who are just like, okay, I would rather make a fake BGS slab than wait a year for them to send it back to me on a non-guaranteed, economy level order, or whatever that submission level is called. So like, we have to like first, I think, like understand that suddenly, many cards are worth grading that were not worth grading. And if we can solve the problem of turnaround times and efficiency, we reduce the incentive to make fake slabs, I think. So like, that's one thing to think about there. Because like I said, grading is so cheap. But then I also go the other way with it. And like, if we're talking high-end cards especially, you really don't want fake. It sucks when you have fake slabs on a $100 card or a $200 card. It's a nightmare if there are fake slabs holding $50,000 cards, because grade matters on super high-end stuff just as much as it does in any other card normally. Not always, but so like, I, like many others, when the fake slab thing happened, went right to my box of cards and just literally, okay, does the patent part at the bottom have the dot? Does the label inside the case have the perforations? Is the lettering right on the subgrades? Like, I literally was like, shit. I started rifling through.
Yeah, I checked out my BGS slabs too.
I think everybody did it all at once, right? And like, and like half of mine I had graded myself, so like I knew, unless BGS is sending me fake slabs or somebody's intercepting them in the mail, it's like, I know that these are good, right? Okay, so I get to check all my slabs, and okay, that's good. But the thing becomes like, I started thinking to myself, why is a $5,000 card in a slab that cost the same to manufacture and took the same amount of time to produce that a $10 card is in, or a $100 card is in? Like, why is that? And then you look at, like, PSA has an upcharge policy So like if PSA is grading a $50,000 card, you're going to pay thousands of dollars. I don't know what the exact policy is off the top of my head, but you're going to pay thousands of dollars to get that grade back. And so I think that's a good step that leads us towards having different tiers of grading and different so if you pay $2,000 to get a card graded, in my opinion, you should get a suite of services. You know, and I'm just a collector who's going to whine here, and so take it with a grain of salt, but like there should be a paragraph or two written up about this card. Any research that the grader did to verify its authenticity or that can add insight to the card should be given. There should be some level of provenance tracking. So like we should know, like Beckett publishes this information, PSA doesn't. We should know the date it was graded. Ideally, we would know like who graded it, or there would be some way to like this department graded it or something. Ideally, we would know who received the card so that we could track the chain of ownership in case it turns out that this card was trimmed or something like that down the line. Like the more transparency and the more information, obviously that's very ideal. That's very idealistic, but the more information we have, the more transparency, the better. And then we should have nicer, more tamper-proof, more counterfeit-proof slabs that people should be able to pay more to get. And I'm no tech guru. I don't know how to solve that, but I think if people could, because like, you know, one of the things I'm really worried about is not $100 cards being in a fake slab, although that's a huge problem, but I'm worried about $5,000 cards.
Yeah.
Like there was like a Luka, I think it was a 2018 Prism Choice Red out of 88 that was in a fake BGS 9.5 slab. Okay, when you start having cards of that value in a BGS 9 slab or BGS 9.5, and like maybe the true condition is a BGS 8 or BGS 8.5, let's say, now you're talking about a con that is being run that's going to cost somebody thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Because now like it's starting. Whereas if it's a LeBron Silver and you get a fake slab, the card's value has fluctuated maybe $50 from like the value of a BGS 8.5 to 9.5 or something. But like when you start getting into like these high end cards, that's where you really start to get worried. And then if the grading companies don't provide you an option where you can say, hey, I will pay extra to get a slab back that has increased counterfeit protection measures, and you know that provides a higher service level. You just don't get it, even though PSA will charge you thousands of dollars to grade a card on an upcharge. And like as a final asterisk,
still goes in the same slab.
It's still in the same slab. It's still, to my knowledge, has the same amount of time spent roughly grading it. The purpose for why the upcharge exists, it seems to me, is because of PSA's guarantee. So PSA guarantees the grade and they guarantee their assessment of authenticity. So like that's why, you know, grading with PSA, especially like your super high end stuff, makes a lot of sense, because PSA provides an insurance policy basically on the authenticity and the numerical grade of the card. So like I get why they upcharge. It's because they have to, that it's basically you're paying a one-time premium to insure your card through them with their guarantee behind it. But okay, I've said a lot of things. I don't know if many of them were helpful, but it feels good to get it off my chest, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm with you on that point. Like, I think this is where it comes down to the fact that we could move into that, add more advancements in technology. And I've heard you speaking about blockchain technology. I mean, you got the Panini blockchain where they're trying to sell you digital cards. They could get a PSA blockchain or something along those lines. And I do know that with there was some blockchain technologies being built around luxury items such as Louis Vuitton bags and all those fancy high-end items, shoes and whatever, that can actually, you put it's a chip that goes in the item, and you scan that chip and it verifies it on the blockchain saying yes, it is a legitimate item. It's not a fake. So why can't something like that start to get created for slabs. Now, maybe that might not be a thing that, you get that feature on like your, as you said, your $100 card or whatever. But if you are willing to pay for that to go on your $100 card, hey, why can't it go on there? Or, if you're paying that upcharge of $1,000 because it's a $50,000 card or whatever, why isn't that something like that, being thought about to be created to then be added to that upcharge? And which would create a lot more security around graded cards in general, because now you've got this chip, and blockchain technology has been proven that it can't be falsified and fabricated. So it would go a massive step in the way of protecting people from counterfeits, in my opinion. So
love that idea. Love it. I don't know enough about blockchain as a technology to comment, except to say that like the way that you just laid it out would do so much to inspire confidence in the authenticity of slabs, that I just hope that the grading companies are taking note. And like you said, hey, Panini's doing it with sports cards, so like there's a precedent here for the grading companies to follow suit. I think that is a very good idea.
It's one of those things as well in the hobby, as you would know, being an avid collector for a while. The more comfortable the collector is, the more business you're going to get. Like if you start putting doubt in people's mind, I understand like the waiting times. It hasn't really put people's doubt in people's minds, because like we'll send it, but we're still going to get the card back. But now when you start seeing fake products, as soon as you start getting some doubt on your business name, they're like, okay, now you lose X amount of people from BGS and they start going to PSA if you're not addressing issues. Like, that's the whole thing. People just want to be comfortable. So both of you have come up with some great ideas there. Like, definitely blockchain and is good for a chip. It makes sense. Like you said, Chris, if you're spending $2,000 on a card, you actually should get a write-up and should get a chip that potentially goes into your slab. It might just be that the QR codes stay for those cards that are at about the $100 mark to $500 mark. They stay with those QR codes as verification. But the chip, for like, not for anything, if you go buy a car for $50,000, you bloody want to hope it's you're picking up a nice car, and you're not getting for example, you're buying a high-end Mercedes or a Mustang, but you're getting I don't know, like a SUV, a Ford Focus instead. Like, you know what I mean? He rocks up there and he goes, oh, but I didn't pay for that. But that's what people in the hobby are looking at that as well. We're not paying for a fake slab. We want real stuff, like authenticity. The report is an awesome thing. I reckon if you're spending $2,000, like, come on. You can't just, like you said, John, they're putting in the same slab. You can't just say, oh, yeah, $2,000. It's graded the same time turnaround. It's going in the same slab. And one thing, obviously, PSA, they haven't got subgrades and stuff. So what are you adding additionally? It's just...
Chris, can you shed some light on this for me? Because this has baffled me since I've come into the hobby. This has absolutely baffled me. I'm still confused as to why.
I've triggered him.
Why does PSA have no 9.5 grade? Why? They have 8.5, but they do not have a 9.5.
Yeah, this is a very God. It must be frustrating. I put myself in the shoes of somebody maybe who like came in the hobby last week, let's say, and they say, okay, you have BGS. There's a BGS 10 black label. That's the best. There's a BGS 10 pristine gold label. Apparently that's pretty good too. What's the difference? A half of a subgrade? Okay, I don't even know if I could spot that with my eye. I don't know if anybody could. If I send a black label, if I crack it and send it to BGS 10 times, is it going to get a black label every time? I don't know. So then the subjectivity of grading gets frustrating. And then you talk about the scale, and then then I go down to BGS 9.5. So this is a gem mint, but you have true gem, which is quad 9.5s. You have true gem plus, which is more than quad 9.5s. You have min gem, which is 1.9 and 3.95s. And this has a big impact on the market because, like a 1986 Fleer MJ, a True Gem Plus will sell for 3 times the value of a Min Gem. And they're both BGS 9.5 overall grade. and so you're like, okay, so is this scale even helping me at all? Like, understand.
Don't get me started on that. I think that's the biggest cop out in the hobby. The fact that they even put subgrades to somewhat justify their grade, like that should be a commendment to Beckett, right? If the big number says 9.5, it's a 9.5. For me, I don't care. Like, even if it doesn't have the subgrade, I think it's such a cop out that you're paying extra, even though it still says 9.5. Like, I think it's a hoax. It's a way to get more money out of people. Like, imagine if they didn't put subgrades and it just said 9.5, like what PSA did, everyone would pay the same price.
They would.
The only problem that you probably be able to shed some light on this as well, with that 9 to 10 jump with PSA, and I understand that's their model. I'm not trying to slam PSA, but people need to understand though, like when it comes to like Luka cards or any cards, when you go look at a pop report, because there's no 9.5s, you're going to have probably, we'll say like a 25% markup on more 9s and more 10s of that card. So there might be in that 10 bunch on PSA 10s, we'll say Luka rookies, Prism Silvers, we'll just say that there's whatever it is. We'll say 10,000, but 25%.
I think it's 2,000 around that number.
All right, 2,000. But we'll say like 25% potentially could be 9.5s. But because they haven't got that grade, they're like, oh, well, it's pushing towards, it's a 9.5. I don't know how they do it. They might just, it must be a 10.
Yeah, no, you're
like, that's the thing. Like it's the pop report is actually kind of false to an extent, if it makes sense, not having that half grade. I'm not like dinging there.
And this is where it creates an opportunity for those companies like NBA to come in and make another grading thing, because they allow 60-40 centering and 70-30 centering this way, and then it goes to a 10, and then NBA could be like, well, it's not really a 10-10, but it's a it's a 10, it's an NBA silver 10, and then the ones that are actually 50-50 centered, they'll get the gold 10 NBA, and it creates these other companies, like instead of creating that 9.5 and then you're like, your 10s are really 10s, like, and then those other ones are like in the 9.5, and then you got your 9. Like, I just think, I don't know.
The 10's there for a perfect card. We said, I lost it. I don't think I've spoken about it on the pod, but I lost it to John. And I just said, how can you have a perfect card with centering 70-30? That's not a perfect card. Or 60-40. It's 50-50. That's a 10. It makes it so much easier. 10 equals perfection in any scaling, whether it's cards or paintings or anything. If you're
Olympic diving, if you get a 10, it's diving,
it's a 10. It's a perfect dive. They didn't say, it's a 10 because her foot was 60-40 off angle. No, it was perfect. That's the thing that frustrates myself and John. I don't know if it frustrates you, but I just don't get it. 10 is perfection.
It's very frustrating. You might point the finger at BGS a little bit here because let's point the finger at everybody and take turns. The first problem with BGS is that they have a 9.5 that's called Gem Mint, and PSA's 10 is called Gem Mint, and there's supposed to be an equivalence there. But then BGS created that higher 10, that lines up better with what you just said. And I agree with, like, a 10 should not have imperfections such as like 60-40 front, 70-30 back. That doesn't really match what we think of when you say this is the highest technical grade a card can receive. There shouldn't be those type of flaws there shouldn't be those type of flaws. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And then, what came in and complicated it further was SGC has 9.52, but theirs is called Mint Plus, not Gem Mint. The SGC 10 is still Gem Mint, and then they have an SGC 10, and then they have SGC 10 Gold label. And so none of these grading companies' scales line up quite right. Like, they do start to harmonize when you get to 9 and lower, but 9.5 and higher is a mess, and none of the numbers mean the same thing for the different companies. So that's a big problem. That's very, very frustrating.
It could be that difference. Honestly, I know we're just projecting and brainstorming, but hopefully that someone watches this and they go, "Oh, it could be an idea." But honestly, we've always talked about the prices are unregulated in the hobby, and it's like, who's regulating the prices? But it could be a matter of if all the companies turn around tomorrow and say, listen, we're going 50-50 front, 50-50 back, all the grading criteria is practically the same, then if you get a 10, it's a true 10, and that's what the value of the card is. Obviously, one of one's an outlier because they're a one of one. You can ask for whatever you want, really. It's whatever the buyer is willing to pay for that card. That's why we're seeing some of those cards go for millions of dollars. But the graded ones, in terms of, I just look at it and go, that's how you regulate the market. But the problem is now it's gone too far to the point that there's so many pop reports now. How do you turn around tomorrow now and say we're changing the criteria and going from this point onwards on November, whatever it is, this is when all the cards are now on this scaling. So this is a true reflection of its value, because then it diminishes the value of everything else that's come before it. So that's the problem now, because I don't know. We're just stuck. We're stuck here now. Like
it's a big problem too, because the grading standards, it's my hunch that they change over time, especially depending upon a particular card and set. Like a lot of 90s cards are very difficult to get even like a 9 on with PSA these days. And it's probably because PSA looks at so many modern cards, like Panini era stuff, that's like on great thick stock and like very clean cut corners and stuff. And the and the 90s stuff is like, not. It's just it wasn't cut as cleanly, and the stock is different and stuff, and like surfaces are, subject to different flaws. And so like with 90s, it's very difficult these days to even get a 9, let alone a 10. But it wasn't always that way, because it was a different, graders used to be looking at a different pool of cards. So it used to be much easier to get 9s and 10s on 90 stuff than it is now. It just was. So like that's an instance where my hunch is that 90s cards are graded more strictly now. It's just so the standard has changed. And then you also see it happen. So let's talk about the Luka Prism base PSA 10 for a minute. We were just talking about the silver. The base has a pop of close to 15,000 PSA 10 alone. And there are definitely different levels of PSA 10s out there. I myself have a PSA 10 that the centering, to me, to call it 60-40 would even be generous. It's probably more like 70-30. And, we've all seen like the memes online and stuff of like Luka based PSA 10s that are like 80-20, and you're just like, how did this happen? And like some people think the way that this happens is because at one point in time that card is a PSA 10 was $40, and so if a grader got a pile of 100 of them, and they're like, man, this pile of 100 cards is standing in between me going home for the night, I'm just going to fly through this pile. What am I going to do? These are only $40 cards. Who cares? I'm just going to fly. I don't have any evidence that happens. I'm not saying that it does happen, but one could think that it might happen, right? And then as a card becomes more valuable, like now if you grade a Luka Prism base PS, you're getting an upcharge for a freaking base card because it's worth $1,700 or $1,600 bucks right now.
Back to technology, and that's where I think why is it a photographic sort of computer from the top where all the person needs to do is line that card up in a square that takes it, that can also tell you whether it's trimmed or not, and can tell you the centering. And then all it's up for the person to do is to pick up that card and look at the surface, the corners, and the edges. They don't have to look at the centering. They don't have to look at none of that stuff. And why isn't someone like Panini helping out the grading companies, PSA, and providing them with the the template to allow them to create that technology so that they can all work in conjunction with each other? Like, this is where it could be so many things done so much better. And I think that's one for sure. Like, I don't think you're going to get rid of the human completely with the AI grading thing, but I think you can shorten the process and shorten the steps that the human has to do. And you can create that the human only has to do these things. It doesn't have to worry about the centering or whether it's trimmed. That can be automatically detected with a laser measuring Like I've just thought about it. Like you've got lasers. Like imagine the card is meant to be this dimension by this dimension. Well, if you've got lasers coming from this way and lasers coming from this way, well, where the card intersects, that would take your measurement of the card on the top and the measurement of the card on the side. So you know straight away, is that card trimmed? Well, it's not trimmed because it's you'd have a little bit of variance, maybe like one little tiny bit of variance because of whoever the guillotine at Panini is cutting the cards, but there'd have to be a little bit of variance because no way that guillotine is cutting it 100%.
That's true.
But I think there's things that could be done. Like it just brings it back to that point. Like what, and I want to know, like, is any of this stuff actually being thought of within those grading companies, or is Panini, is PSA trying to work with Panini to get some of these things to help them? Like, we don't know, and that's why I throw these ideas out there. I like having a platform to throw these ideas out there because hopefully maybe someone from PSA or someone who knows someone in PSA or BGS listens to this and be like, oh, that's actually, maybe we should look at something like that.
That was one of the more reasonable propositions I've heard, because people get a little, myself included, get a little nervous if like all of grading went strictly AI. That just makes people uncomfortable. But if it was a hybrid model that allowed a machine to do the objective tasks like evaluating centering, and if there was a collaboration between Panini, because that's a question that happens a lot, right? Is like, what actually should centering on Prism look like? Like, what should it look like? There was a lot of debate around what 2018 Prism centering is supposed to look like, especially top to bottom. Like, I still don't know what top to bottom centering is actually proper. So Panini can say, here's, the blueprint for this card design. This is the ideal version. I think that's a very reasonable thing to do. But I also know that the issue that our whole industry is having is that it blew up so fast, and it's blowing up, but our industry is sitting on top of a very old infrastructure and it's being run by companies that had very comfortable business models that now suddenly they have to figure out ways to scale them up 10x overnight. And it's the card manufacturer, it's the graders, it's the people who make supplies, it's the card shops. Like, everybody is suffering.
We had top loader shortage down here for a while. We couldn't get top loaders at all.
Man, I paid $250 for like 400 card savers or so, or maybe it was even crazier than that. I paid so much money for card savers just because there was this huge shortage of them, and now like the prices come back down a little bit. But like everywhere you look in the hobby, there's suddenly this just explosion of interest in business, and it's going to be up to our institutions like our manufacturers and our grading companies to take a risk and bet on the hobby, that we're going to sustain our growth and get even bigger. And somebody who did it was PSA. Bought 60,000 new square feet of land of real estate, and they brought in all this new equipment, and they are hiring all these new graders and hiring all these new people. PSA has like very clearly made a bet on itself and on the hobby by undertaking this, because if you think the hobby is going to retreat in 2 years, you don't want to bring on 100 new employees that you have to let go. That's not humane. Nobody wants to do that.
Correct.
So like you have to be confident in us, and like PSA did that, which is really admirable. And I would love to see BGS follow suit too. Like, that brand is so important to the hobby. The fact that Dr. James Beckett's name is on it just really resonates with so many people who collected in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, I think what John laid out there is an extremely reasonable approach that, he just kind of gave the blueprint for how to do it. So it'd be great if that could happen.
It's like you said, it all comes down to human grading at the moment. There's always going to be human error there. Like, the three of us could be graders and we could grade completely different, all three of us.
Yeah.
But having that hybrid model could be the option. Like, we've seen with any industry, technology helps people so much more in like efficiency in their work. We're not saying, oh, fire, we don't need humans anymore. No, we need people to do the job. It's just, it gives you assistance. It can be very hard to pick a centering, and by eye, people can be like, oh, it's pretty good centering, but it might not be when you get to the grading companies. But we'll see what happens. I know we're making money, but we'll move on to another topic, which now just one more business topic before we get into some. We'll talk some sports, but spotting is becoming a huge issue, and John had experience in the sneaker flipping hobby before really getting into the card stuff, and he saw it like botting, and he used to explain it to me, and I go, "This is ridiculous." But now in a few groups he's in, like Discord groups and stuff, just trying to find people to sell sneakers to, they're starting to post things about like Hoops Premium and botting this site. And he sends me screenshots going, look at this, look what their wavelength.
Mind you, I've been talking about this. I said, wait till these guys realize that they can buy, product and a blaster box at $40 and flip it for 120. I said they're making more money. They're happy to buy sneakers at 150 and flip it for 180 or 190 and make like 30, $40.
Yeah.
Wait till they realize they can make $80 flipping these packs of cards. I was like, you watch, they are going to start buying out all of, Targets, Walmarts, and, over here, Kmart, and pre-ordering, taking all the pre-orders out at Zing and EB Games, and which are some of the retailers over here that sell cards for retail, Chris. And it was just inevitable. So it's gotten to that point that's happening. I know it's happening vigorously on Walmart's site and Target over in the US. And now I've got whiff of it actually coming to the Australian market, and I've sort of let people know that this is coming, and you need to be wary that if you see the product or you see it and you want to rip it, make sure you just buy it. Like don't wait, and just always be onto it that. If you really want to get that product at retail price, like you need to be checking these websites on the daily, maybe multiple times a day. If you don't have a crawler on the site, which is what's happening, they're putting crawlers on the site, probably looking for keywords like Panini, NBA, whatever it is, and they get those keywords and they get a notification to their phone on Discord, and then they just go click into it and buy out all the stock, which is, it sucks for the hobbyists. It sucks for the people like me who, I got to the point where I was like, I bought a whole bunch of boxes of Optic Retail this year, and I ripped 4 of them. I happened to got my hand on like 7 boxes, and I ripped 4 of them and got absolutely jack squat. I think the best card I got was a DeAndre Hunter auto, and I would say that was about it. And then if you can call hitting some Kobe White base cards a good hit, or some Tyler Hero base cards of Optic, that was about it. So then I was like, well, I'm cutting my losses. I'm selling my other 3 boxes, and I sold my other 3 boxes and actually made profit because they went up they actually went up that much that I made profit on the whole 7 boxes, covered the cost of the other 4 and made profit, which was amazing. But I'm of the view of like, I'll buy 10 boxes, sell 5 and make a bit of profit, and then cut my losses because, potentially the 5 that I open are going to be nothing in it, which has happened to me a lot. As Dom has seen, I've opened quite a few Mosaic Cellos this year, and I have yet to hit one Ja Morant or Zion or any sort of auto out of it.
The best seller you opened was on the podcast when you got 2 LeBrons and a Luka green.
I got a Luka green, yeah.
That was literally the best seller he's opened. And he's open heaps. But the spotting has become an issue. It's more predominantly here in Australia focused around Pokemon cards. And we've been trying to bring this awareness to people in this country and people that listen to us in the US, because we've got a pretty big US following in terms of our podcast and stuff. So we're trying to get them to understand, especially here, that because we don't get the sports card stock,
the allocation of stock.
Yeah, the allocation like you do in the US, and especially this year because of COVID and stuff, it's dwindled out even more. Pokemon's become the main focus, and we keep telling a lot of people that enjoyed obviously walking into a store. This obviously applies to NBA as well, but walking into a store and going, I'm going to buy a retail pack of cards for my kid, and we're going to go home. We're going to have the joy of ripping it together. And John and I keep saying that those days, unfortunately, because of botting, and it could be because people are always on the ball and they know times when to rock up to a target to get the resupply and like literally buy everything off the shelves. Those days are gone. They're actually numbered. It's literally gets to like you got a 10% chance you're going to walk into a retail store now, especially here, and go, oh, I want Pokemon Vivid Voltage. You're going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to walk in and go get this. It's such a like rare occasion that you find stuff. It is unbelievable. And that's what we're trying to say. Like sneakerheads, if people that don't know, I'm going to give them a lot of credit here, but they are the best when it comes to hobby flippers in any hobby. They are the best. And you don't want to go up against these people trying to sell like your cards, because we're here going, we want it for market value. We want to sell the card for market value. We're not willing to sell it for $20 less. The flipper, like John said, they don't care. They'll bot the site, get the product. They'll sell it for $30 cheaper. They're still going to get a profit. That's their mentality because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah,
and
their mentality in the sneaker flipping game is to keep that money on rotation with always new stuff. So they're not fussed about holding on to it, and it could potentially in 3 months when everyone's opened their packs that this box could be then worth 250. They don't care. They just want to buy it for 40 and sell it for 90 or sell it for 100 or and just make like a little bit of profit, even if the profit's $30 or $20. But they're getting smarter. What I've noticed, which is they're not doing that with the cards. They're sort of holding it and realizing that if you hold it and can hold on to that for a month or a month and a half until some of that supply is now not getting into targets and stuff, then you can make more money. So like it just brings it back down to like they're not in the words of but they like to turn a profit. They see this as sort of like their bit of a side hustle along with their sneakers flipping. And unfortunately, now with you're covering 5,500 cards on Cardladder, and the average daily sales on those cards is like somewhere between 2 to 3 million or something like that per day. Well, when there's that much money in an industry, there's always going to be people ripe for opportunity. And it's the same with the sneaker flipping. No one thought sneakers 25, 30 years ago would be collections, and that you'd have sneakers that if you held from 30 years ago could be worth, $100,000 today. Well, it's the same premise with the cards. So that's where it all brings it back down to that, when things appreciate in value, there's always going to be opportunity for people to make a quick buck, and that's what they're seeing. And we just want people to be aware so they're not caught. What's the word? They're not caught. They're caught off guard, and be like, well, I can't even buy a pack of Pokemon cards now. Like, what's going on? Like, it's just like, well, if you see a pre-order and you've got the opportunity to buy at that point, like, just buy it. Like, don't wait, because most likely, if you wait and in 3 months' time, you'll be paying double what you could have paid back then.
So yeah, what's your thoughts on the botting and obviously taking out the stock, I guess?
Yeah, I mean that's a great public service announcement there on being aware of bots. And I mean, yeah, if people aren't aware, they need to be. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Like, the bots, the first time bots became an issue in my experience in the hobby was Panini, when Panini started rolling out first off the line, and people were making insane amounts of money because like the way Panini first off the line used to work is it's gonna go live at 8 a.m. on this day, and first come first served. And like for a little while it was just who can click the fastest, but like obviously we have people who are savvy with coding and who began developing bots and crawlers and scrapers and all this stuff. And so it got to a point where, first off the line drops and like the site would literally crash because there's just so many bots trying to buy this stuff. And it was really obvious why it worked that way. I mean, like 2018 Prism first off the line basketball would come out for like, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but I kind of like vaguely remembering what it was like at the time. It would come out for like $250 and it would be $650 on eBay within a week. Or I do remember National Treasures because 2018 National Treasures basketball, we were able to buy one. Christina and I were able to buy a box first off the line. They were $7.50 on Panini, and we just clicked fast enough. When it got to 8 a.m., we got a box for $7.50, and they were going for like $2,500 on eBay by the end of the day, if I remember right. So like, and then obviously when that's happening, like us simpletons are going to be pushed out of the way by people who know how to manipulate the tech. And that's exactly what happened. So Panini developed a solution. And the solution is the Dutch auction, where now Panini, and it's funny too how it works because like, I don't remember what product it was. It may have been 2019 National Treasures first off the line. I think it was with the Zion's rookie box first off the line for NT. And I think they started the Dutch auction at like 30,000. And then it counted down from there. And I remember people were furious that they would start it. Like, they were like, if these boxes sell for anywhere close to 30,000, like, people were like, the hobby is going to be done, because like, who can afford this anymore? So like, people were furious about that. And ironically, if I remember right, that Dutch auction went all the way down to the minimum, which was like $5,000 maybe or something like that. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but like, it went all the way down to the bare minimum, and then all of a sudden it was magically sold out. But it never fails. Even in that case, eBay secondary market for that box was like 200% of its Dutch auction price. It just never fails. Even with Dutch auctions, it just never fails. The secondary market is always more. It just always is.
Secondary market's undefeated.
Maybe it takes like a week, maybe it takes a month, but the secondary market always is inflated. And so like, I have no idea why that happened. Well, I guess I do. It's just because, many people just aren't there to pay attention to when the Dutch auction hits, and then they just have to wait. But like, they have to wait till it hits eBay. But that's the hobby has tried to solve this issue, at least with first off the line product. And so bots have been kind of removed there, because like with a Dutch auction, it's just, you wait until it like the price drops every 5 minutes or whatever. You wait till it gets to a price you're comfortable with, and then you just buy them. And people have a lot of gripes with Dutch auctions, but that exists. But retail is like a whole different phenomenon. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me why, okay, Walmart should know that these products that they're selling on their shelf for $20 are being bought and put on eBay and selling for $80. That, in what business does that make sense? Let's say I ran a restaurant and I'm selling pizzas for $20 out of my door, and then somebody takes the pizza out of the door and sells it for $80. Maybe I should be charging more for my pizzas. Like, I don't know, but this whole retail flipping game it's nothing new. Clearly, I have no experience with sneaker flipping, but I understand that like retail flipping has been a thing for a long time. And then when one thing to worry about is if too many people start holding their wax and seeing it as investments rather than opening it and getting the cards out, it makes it difficult to figure out how much product is actually ultimately going to be in circulation. And like Dr. James Beckett has talked about this a lot. One thing that he feels is like, if anything more than 10% of a product is not opened, he gets concerned about that, because he believes it distorts the secondary market for singles, and it makes it hard to get accurate information. Like, that's one thing to worry about here, is like boxes, become seen as these investments. Is like, if and many boxes are too expensive to open. Like, I was looking last night, we were looking at 2018 Prism hobby box prices. Those boxes are like $4,500 right now. Those boxes were $225 at release. At $4,500, you start to feel like that box is too expensive to open. If I had one of those boxes, I would never open it. Just
Keep it sealed.
Keep it sealed. The opportunity
Could end up like an 86 clear box.
Yeah, well,
But it is a gamble though. But that's the thing. Like, I understand we can talk about investments, but I'm going to be devil's advocate here and just put it out there that in my opinion, I actually don't think that any of these boxes on the secondary market should be worth jack squat till the players, those rookie players, actually accomplish something. I can understand like a Skybox or a Topps Chrome 03, for example, like that box being worth a lot because LeBron James is in there and look what LeBron James has accomplished. But then look at that draft class too. They're all literally Hall of Famers. Like, we can buy that the Prism box, last year's Prism, the Zion rookie, or even the Luka rookie box. And what happens if three of those guys, well, one guy, the main guy, well, Luka, for example, and then Zion, or even Jar, get serious injuries and they never become what they are. And everyone's bought like 10 boxes. Oh, yeah, this is the greatest investment. It's going to be worth $100,000. And it's worth nothing. That's my whole thing. If the guy gets injured, the box is gone just as much as the cards are finished. Like,
Totally.
that's my thing. Like, that's why, like, I know John has always spoke about vintage and stuff. That's why it is actually a sure bet. If you go out and you find someone selling old wax boxes, like, and there's some big hits in there, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm just flogging them off. I don't actually know what the value is, and he's just selling it for what it was retail back then. He's like, I just want my money back, and he's not aware of the market. And you go, oh, actually, I'm going to buy that and keep that as an investment, and it's got a Jordan insert in there. I can assure you, unless the whole market crashes, the value of that box is never going to depreciate. It's only going to appreciate because it's got Jordan in it. And the same thing with Chrome 03 with LeBron. It's only going to appreciate more. Even if LeBron gets injured or he retires tomorrow, it's still going to go up when he gets into the Hall of Fame. If you you can play 3 games and break another record next year, and it's just always going to go up. They're sure things. That's why I don't understand. That's why it is gambling to an extent.
Yeah.
Because you're gambling on your future investment. All it takes is one injury. It's it.
I don't understand the appreciation of some of the card prices. I mean, it brings it back to like the card prices, but these boxes as well. Especially like say for instance, like what in that Luka year you've got mainly like it's Trey and Luka, right? That's pretty much the main guys that you get. Now, the trajectory of the way that box price is going, you're pretty much saying that either Luka Doncic or Trey Young is going to be an all-timer. They're going to win like 3+ championships. They're going to win multiple MVPs. Let's be honest, and I've said this to Dom, and I'll put this out there. What happens if Luka Doncic is 7 years into his career and he hasn't even made it to a conference finals or hasn't made it past the conference finals? But he puts up numbers. He's won an MVP. He's another James Harden. He's that good. He's unbelievably talented, but he can't win for whatever the reason is. He can't get past that point to cement himself and win a championship, or 7 or 8 years. Like, I genuinely think until LeBron James and KD are out of the league, like Luka Doncic is not going to even have a sniff at any sort of championship until that point. Like, I mean, I can't see him even having a sniff for the next 3 to 4 seasons, minimum. But you don't know. It's the NBA. Like, in that time, there could be another prodigy that's come through the ranks in 3 seasons' time. And then there's this new 19, 20-year-old that bursts onto the scene. And then in 2 years after he's burst onto the scene, he's 3 years into his career. And Luka Doncic is 10 years into his career. And maybe Luka Doncic is at his pinnacle, maybe his peak time, but then you've got this young buck who's just an absolute monster. He's like the next coming of LeBron James, and he just can't win a championship. Like, he just can't win. And like,
John, let me chime in on this because first of all, both of you guys, Dom, I love your point on risk mitigation and understanding that there are literally legends out there. Like, people are very excited about what LeBron has accomplished, as am I. I bought a big LeBron card this offseason. I bought his 2018 Prism Gold. Like, I'm huge. Like, that's the first LeBron I ever bought. Wow. There's a guy out there named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who has, if you look at the list of accomplishments that guy had and you look at the impact that he had on basketball, how many MVP. I think he has 6. I'm gonna make a fool of myself.
I think it is 6. I think it is.
I think he has 6 MVPs, like 20 All-Star appearances. He's the current, all-time scoring leader, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
There are great players in history whose cards, are cheaper than Trae Young and Luka Doncic. But there's reasons for that, there's definitely reasons for that we don't need to get into, like, media narrative, new people in the hot, they want ownership over stuff. But, like, I love your point on that, and it resonates with me a lot because I collect Michael Jordan, who's obviously a player who's been retired for many years. So Josh made a great point on the crossover last night. He said, when you collect all-time greats like LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Kareem, Wilt, Dr. J, etc., when you collect guys like that, what you're doing is your bet is on the hobby and on collecting. And you're betting on how much collectors will love sports cards and continue to love sports cards. Like that's your gamble. Whereas people buying Luka and Trae, and I'm among them too. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Lukas, but among people who are collecting those, we are betting on the hobby and on prospects. So the gamble is doubled. And I wanted to talk to John's point briefly because look at what happened to Giannis. Giannis just recorded the highest player efficiency rating for an NBA season in league history, eclipsing Wilt Chamberlain. They had the best record in the regular season. The bubble happens, and there's a lot of mitigating circumstances in the bubble. There was social justice issues that players were occupied with, especially the Milwaukee Bucks. And there was this layoff time that just certain players did not come back into the bubble at the same level of readiness. Like Montrezl Harrell was a guy who was a totally night and day what he was in the regular season versus what he was in the bubble. And so there's a lot of mitigating circumstances, but the Bucks were a disappointment. They went out in the second round. They lost to a team that was like red hot, like Miami. Miami was at full health at the finals. They won 2 games without their best scorer in the finals against the Lakers. If they were at full health, that finals probably would have at least gone 7. It would have been interesting. So there's no shame in losing to that Miami team. But when Giannis lost, the media narrative and the hobby narrative totally took a nosedive, and all of a sudden, this guy who's back-to-back MVP, who's the scariest player in the league to face when he's going full steam, running fast breaks, the Greek Freak. I mean, I remember watching a Mavericks game because I watched every Mavericks game last season. When they played the Bucks without Luka, they won the game, which was incredible. But at the end of the game, and it snapped the Bucks' winning streak, and it was crazy. It was a huge upset. But they almost lost, despite leading by a comfortable margin the whole game. They almost lost. And it was simply because Giannis was just at the end of the game just decided, I'm just going to grab rebounds off of free throws or grab inbounds because they were intentionally fouling. I'm just going to grab it, and I'm just going to run the whole length of the court. If someone wants to get in my way and try to stop me, so be it. He did it on 3 straight possessions. 2 of them were and ones. He racked up 8 points in 30 seconds. I was like, this guy is literally unstoppable when he decides I'm going to play like that. So when you have a player like Giannis that the hobby and the sports media can completely turn on just because he lost to a really hot team in a weird circumstance in the bubble, it should make all of us very cautious about any prospect. God forbid you lose in the second round after winning MVP, but like John said, much worse can happen. You could have an injury. You could, a million things could happen. You could lose your confidence. You could be like Markelle Fultz and forget how to shoot.
Yeah.
There's so many things could happen to you that with a prospect that I agree. I think the hobby, one of the good and the bad things about the hobby and collectors, we are just always very optimistic. We're just eternal optimists. We're just always just seeing the glasses half full. And that's great, because it makes it a fun place to be. But sometimes we're just so optimistic. Trae Young hasn't played basketball in like 10 months. But his market has like 5x'd since he last picked up basketball. We're just so optimistic. We get so speculative. We get so excited about the hobby, and then reality eventually sets in, and we have to deal with the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I'm one of those optimists in the hobby, but John and that's why we try and. There's sometimes you got to think of the bad things that are going to happen. You can't always think it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. Unfortunately, that's why we bring it up and we put it out there. And people might think, "Oh, you're so cynical on the hobby and you don't like the hobby, mate." We love the hobby. I've been around it my whole life because of a couple of my family members and stuff. Have been collecting their whole life, so I've been around the whole hobby. And then John's been in different hobbies and he's jumped into this, and then because we're really good friends, he's been around my family members that have been in it as well. But you got to be aware, like you said, you have to be aware of these things as well. You can't be just like, this is like the way it's going and it's trajecting, and that this is the only way we're going to look at it with blinders on. You just gotta be open to everything.
It's just
you gotta be open to everything. Yeah, it's just But
I'll just bring it back to the point, like Trae Young's NBA Hoops PSA 10 should not be selling for the same price as a Shaquille O'Neal PSA 10 NBA Hoops. Like, and I'll just say I love Trae Young, and it's just like, there was a comparison through the week. Like a Trae Young PSA 10 was selling for $100. A Prism PSA 10 was selling for $100 less than a LeBron James Upper Deck rookie exclusives PSA 10. And go have a look at the pop reports and compare the rarity and compare the actual grading gem rate to that. And you're just like, how is that possible? Like, one guy's won 4 championships, and is like, considered as up there with Jordan as potentially the best player to ever walk the planet. And the other guy hasn't even made the playoffs. And I love Trae Young. I really want him to do well. But I just use him as an example because I just think like things are being blown out of proportion at the time being. And this is where I'm like, I've got Trae Young cards. Like, I'm not saying that I don't. Like, I've got Trae Young. I've got Luka cards. You'd just be silly not to have some of those guys because the way that the market is. But don't put all your eggs in that basket. Like, buy some of the vintage guys.
There he is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. But yeah, just buy some of the vintage guys and the guys that have solidified their place in history. And that's why I'm massive on Kobe. I'm just like, just buy as much Kobe Bryant as you can. Like, think about all the cool inserts that there is, and have a look at the way Jordan inserts have gone. Kobe Bryant was pretty much the Michael Jordan of that generation, and a whole bunch of kids like myself growing up watching Kobe Bryant who didn't get to see Michael Jordan play. Like, essentially Kobe is our Michael, if you get what I mean. So like that, in the future, if you're betting on the hobby, we'll have a look at how some of those iconic Michael Jordan inserts have gone. Why wouldn't you be buying some of the most iconic Kobe Bryant inserts, which is what I've started doing now, rookie ones, non-rookie ones, just ones that I think look cool. Trying to, even secure a PSA 9, which at right now are cheap, and based off their gem rate are super undervalued in my opinion. So like, I've been trying to pick up some of those and hold those for the future, and see where they have potentially go. So it's just like trying to make people, like, it's all good being living in the now, but think about if you want to be in the hobby and be involved for the next 10 years. Buying some things that in 10 years' time that you could, potentially add some value to your collection.
Oh, that's sage advice. That's just absolutely sage advice. And the hobby makes sense in a whole different way when we start thinking, like you just said, how can I acquire cards and build a collection that are going to make me enjoy the hobby more and more as each year passes, and then I get to year 10 and I have this amazing collection built up, and it's not like scattershot a pile of Trae Young PSA 10 hoops or something, or like some sealed wax. No, it's like, no, I went and built a Kobe Bryant late 90s, early 2000s insert and refractor collection. I understood and studied pop reports. Dude, some of those Kobe chrome refractors from the late 90s and the early 2000s, like the PSA 10 pop is like 6 and the PSA 9 pop is like 15. And these cards can be had, some of the PSA 9s, for hundreds of dollars. Now, Kobe's market, though, is going crazy because I think there's a lot of smart collectors out there who are like, oh, wait a minute, this is a small gold mine of collecting here. Like Kobe, one of the things about Kobe, he's been in every great era of sports cards, excluding vintage. He was there in the first year of Topps Chrome. He was there for that great run of like Finest and Skybox and Fleer inserts and Upper Deck inserts in the late 90s.
Oh,
He
Skybox,
was there.
that lives close to my heart. They make some of the best.
Skybox is elite.
Totally. Early 2000s, he's there for the introduction and advent of Exquisite and like the explosion of patch auto stuff. He's there when Panini takes over and Prism comes out and National Treasures and Immaculate and Flawless. He's there in these great products. You know, there's many great Kobe collectors, but one of them just landed the Nebula from 2018 Prism. Like Kobe is in the first year of Prism that produced Prism Nebula. Kobe is in every great era of cards. He's if ever there was a player to collect out of love of the hobby, who you can get if you like Prism in Panini era, if you like the Exquisite era, if you like the Topps Chrome, Skybox era, you can collect great Kobe cards from all those eras and never run out. Like that. That's what I like about even Michael Jordan collecting. The scope is much more limited, but there's enough there for me to hunt and chase. It will occupy me for a lifetime, then some. I feel comfortable with that. That pleases the collector in me. It gives me this laundry list of things to just keep working on and not feel pressured. Like, is he going to have a good game? Like, what happens if this, that, it's not like that. It's like, and then the community of collectors, like the collectors of prospects tend to be very investment-y and they're always panicking. Should I sell? Should I buy? Should I sell? Should I buy? Whereas collectors of Jordan, I've found, are very stable and even and steady. And they just have a bucket list, a laundry list of cards that they just check and they just keep going and keep going. And it pains them when they have to sell something to buy something new. Those fundamentals make for a very durable market that, it's one of the best kept open secrets in the hobby is that there's so much joy and success to be had focusing on guys like Shaq, like Kobe, like Jordan, like LeBron.
Definitely.
Nice.
And like we said, we're not telling anyone out there, don't collect Zion, don't collect this person. You can collect them, but what we're trying to say is don't put all your eggs in one basket on a person that's 2 years into a league or 1 year into the league. Because then you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth if something goes wrong and you're going to be like, this hobby's this and this hobby's that. It's just like, wait a second. You can go back 20 years and you can actually collect some of your favorite players. And they're so affordable, and you don't need to go for those mainstream ones that everyone's promoting, for example. Like, just do some research into stuff. And like you said, you got those Fleer cards and those Skybox cards. You can just pick up a nice insert. It goes into your PC, and that's your first taste of getting a Kobe or
the art of the future, as I keep saying. It's going to be, people are going to be viewing some of these cards the way those old Skybox inserts and some of the old Fleer inserts and things as art. As what, the Pokemon market is now. People are viewing their old school Pokemon cards that are as art. The Pokemon collectors, they display it on their mantle. It's the same thing. You have a man cave, you're gonna display your awesome Kobe inserts. You know what I mean? Like, people are gonna come over to play a game of pool at Dom's house, and he's gonna have his awesome freaking LeBron James or his Jimmy Butler. He loves Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah, so, Jimmy Buckets. No, mate, I'll just have a Skybox PC on display. I got the Jordan USA Skybox card. I got a Magic, and then a really nice one that I actually purchased. And I showed John, and he was like, "Oh, that's actually a really nice card to get." It's the finals matchup Skybox. I think it's 91 insert of Jordan versus Kobe. Jordan versus Magic. It's the art on it looks unbelievable. I'm like, this is a cool card. I've got one Jordan card, but it's just a base card. But I'm like, this is a really nice Magic that I haven't got. I haven't got a Jordan and Magic together. I can't go and afford a dual auto. It's not in my price point. But I'm like, that's something nice I could put in my collection and say down the track, these are two of my favorite players. And I got their card. And it's something that looks really good. So there's always something for everyone, as you know, in this hobby. there's always something. If you can't find one card, there'll be something else that'll appeal to you, and you can always go out and get it. So, yeah, that's the joys of the hobby, mate. There's always an option. Another thing is, let's get into this projecting now. I like the projecting. We love it on this show. Which cards do you think you can go based on Cardladder? What you see is climbing or hot cards right now, but what do you see as sleepers in the hobby? Whether it's in basketball or any sport, for example, based on what you're seeing on through the Cardladder platform or just through yourself and talking to other hobbyists.
Yeah, great question. I want to get your takes too, definitely on what you guys think are sleepers, because you never know what makes something a sleeper. Christina interviewed Kevin Hake from Panini a few months ago. And she asked him what he thought a sleeper product was, and he said 2018-19 status basketball. He felt like was a sleeper product, and he's not the first person. We've visited Panini's headquarters in Texas, and we've seen their facility, and it's what they do. The work they do is extremely impressive and efficient. And we had a chance to talk to some of the executives there. And they were all high on status, which is weird because then status didn't come out. It was supposed to be in Chronicles, but it wasn't in 2019-20 Chronicles. And then there's rumors that it's going to be like an Asia only release or something. So I don't know what's going on with status, but I know that as soon as Kevin Hake said that on Christina's interview, a couple of entrepreneurial fellas went and bought the entire supply online of 2018-19 status. They bought 50 boxes from Blowout. They completely cleared them out. They bought everything from Dave and Adams. And, then you couldn't find those boxes all of a sudden, and they got expensive.
Wow.
So, all it takes is just one person to put it into the hobby consciousness that, a product is a sleeper, and the product has to deliver the goods. So status, we just opened a status box a week ago. Status delivers the goods. I got 25 cards out of the one box that I'm sending to PSA. Whether it was, I got a Luka base rookie, which those go for $400 as a PSA 10, and the card looked clean. And a Luka insert. I got 3 Trae Young rookies. Those are a couple $100 a piece. I mean, when a product delivers like that, then you have a real sleeper on your hands. So sometimes all it takes is for somebody to put it on the radar. But 2018-19 status, I still believe is a sleeper. I just think that the cards look good, and they take, and we just got done kind of pumping up the 90s. These cards remind me of the 90s quite a bit, from the stock that's used to the design components, to the die cut. They have the Status Pursuit die cut parallels, which is very 90s-esque to use die cutting. So I like status. I don't know a terrible amount about the next product I'm going to say, but I like Court Kings. I just think it's cheap. I just saw one of the levels of Luka's rookie. I think it was level 3 maybe or something. I don't know. But one of them just sold. It was in a BGS 9.5, and we even did a Cardladder headline about it for Instagram. And it sold for under $800. A gem mint of a Luka rookie from Court Kings that looks awesome and was low pop, super low pop. So I just feel okay, there's a good value too, because again, I just like the way the card looks. I think that the card looks awesome, and it reminds me of 90s. So I like Court Kings too. And then this is my own personal thing, because people can give opinions, and that's good. But what really speaks volumes is where do people spend their money, right?
Yes,
that's
correct.
really when you're getting into the truth of what they think. Because anytime, as a philosophical matter, as a question of economics, when I exchange a certain amount of my money for an item, what I'm saying, the preference that I'm revealing is that I value that item more than I value my money. So when people spend things, they're revealing their preference in a certain sense. And for me, the thing that I cannot resist buying when it comes to like modern sleeper products is non-rookie year one of ones. So whether it's LeBron, Luka, Giannis, whoever the case may be, I feel like non-rookie year one of ones from any product, it doesn't matter. And this also goes into like football cards too. Like I started a Christian McCaffrey PC at that absolute wrong time. I bought all of my McCaffrey cards when the market was way up here, and now it's way down here. So
I wouldn't
again,
stress on that one though. I wouldn't stress on that one.
well,
He's a gun. He's going to be very good. It's just one of those injury seasons for him. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So like,
Yeah, but I think it was the market like didn't
Yeah, I
get its
know,
chance to have its hype like the NBA, and then it got its hype. And I mean, mind you, at that time when everything was going up, I was kicking myself because probably about 2 months before it went up, I was like, should I buy a Russell Wilson? PSA 10, passing like, he's got that passing top. So it's like, should I buy it? It was only like 200 and something bucks, and I didn't buy it. And then it like ends up being like 750 bucks. I'm like, well, I'm definitely not buying it now. I'm not buying it now.
Yes, no, that's I think like I think McCaffrey. I agree that like the injury is tough, but also I don't think anybody could have kept up the hype that these guys had. But it's funny because like the most hyped up like proven active players were like Michael Thomas and Christian McCaffrey, and both of those guys have had very weird seasons, and like both of their markets have cut in half. But I'm still buying McCaffrey, and like with McCaffrey, I picked up a 2019, which would be third year McCaffrey, a gold vinyl Prism, which is out of 5, right? Like that's a really cool card to me. I picked up that for $90 on eBay, right? Like I don't know, does that card go up in value? I don't know, but I just felt like it was such a cool card to add to my collection, and there's only 4 other ones. That's like super appealing to me.
I would have that than just a base Prism. Let's be honest.
But you know what?
That's how I collect.
You know what's really funny about that? Like it's numbered to 5, and it's a third year McCaffrey. Can you imagine, like, with the thought process that you have behind McCaffrey, though? Let's transition that back to basketball. Can you imagine, like, back then they were numbering cards in Skybox, and you got, like, for example, a third year or whatever it was, and I've gone blank here, Fleer. Like, you get a third year Jordan, and it's numbered to 5. How that would have transitioned in the market now? Like, just imagine that. Like, we look back at like one-on-ones, like you're saying, of outside of their rookie year, and we're like, oh, that's worth something. That's worth something. Just imagine if they numbered cards back then. Like, it'd be game over. Like, the prices would be astronomical, especially for Jordan. It would just be a joke. Like, there'd be
that's the focus of my PC.
my
Jordan PC is numbered playing years, and like I put playing years in quotation marks because 98, 99 collectors generally see that as playing years because it depicts the 97, 98 season. I focus on those numbered parallels from playing years. And so that creates a big list of cards to focus on: PMGs, rubies, credentials. The 2 that I just picked up most recently, I picked up both years of the 97, 98, and the 98, 99 Stadium Club one of a kind. And they're one's a BGS 9 and one's a BGS 8.5. Those cards are both numbered to 150. There's only one other parallel to the base set, I believe, which is the first day issue, which is crazy to think about. Prism has 40 parallels. When you're talking late 90s, Ultra, you had the base, you had the gold medallion, platinum medallion, and in certain issues you had the one-of-one masterpiece. Like that's it. You had 4 variations, including the base. Or like Stadium Club, you had 3 variations, including the base. And so like a late 90s card that's numbered to 150, that's numbered to 500 even, like high voltage 500, is in some ways the equivalent of, a Prism card that's much lower numbered than that, because there wasn't this proliferation of parallels where you have a neon green out of 5 and a pink pulsar out of 42 and a blue fast break out of 175, and there's you just had like a very few parallels, and if maybe 1, maybe 2 were numbered. So like the 97, 98 and 98, 99 Stadium Club one of a kinds, like of Jordan, of Kobe, of Duncan, like of any of these guys, I just think are just awesome cards. And it speaks to what you said too, like numbering serial numbered cards from that era are very like I don't think they get their respect quite yet because people are just looking at the number. They're not contextualizing it. There's one Michael Jordan card that I'm aware of that's numbered to 5 that was ever made during his playing years. It's the Hoops starting 5 parallel. And that card is so elusive and so rare. And it's so plain. Like all it is just a base card with a stamp. Whenever one appears, which is very infrequently, but whenever one of those appears, people don't even believe it's authentic. Even if it's graded, people are overly concerned it's counterfeit because that's how elusive a Michael Jordan card numbered to 5 is. It's a unicorn. People don't even believe it exists.
That's crazy.
I've seen a Kobe in my hand, a Kobe starting 5 parallel in my hand, and I didn't even know what to think because for the late 90s to have a card numbered to 5 is unthinkable. So, tying that back into like the sleepers concept, numbered 90s stuff of players who are active from the big sets, I think is a really exciting and fun place to collect, and you'll be pleasantly surprised with the prices on that stuff. If you're in tune with what modern stuff costs, you'll be very pleasantly surprised with what you can get with the same amount of money.
Definitely. For myself, before Saucer gets into about 25 smokies that he's going to drop on this podcast, for the sleepers, I like vintage. I like those old sets. Definitely. I'm with you in terms of like how you mentioned Kareem before. I listened to The Herd a fair bit, and Colin Coward talks about like it's just like a throwaway comment that he makes, but it resonates with me because I relate back to the hobby with if you're going to tell the story of basketball, can you tell it without X? And I look at it like that and I go, well, can you tell the story of basketball without Kareem? No. So, and it's a player that I like. So it's someone that I probably want to invest in and put into my PC eventually. Like I opened up a Mosaic Cellar and I got in the pink pack, I got a Kareem. I know it's not worth anything, but it's like, well, it's Kareem. So I'll sleeve it up, top loader it, and I'll keep it in my collection. Like it's something I'm not going to give away. But I reckon that's something, if you can genuinely say to yourself, you can't tell the story without this person, I reckon it's someone that you should probably try and collect, especially if it's your favorite player. If it's one of your favorite players, I'd probably try and PC that guy. Like, especially like Kobe and Jordan. You definitely can't tell the story without them. Shaq. So that's one thing. In terms of like, I reckon recently, I reckon Tatum's a guy that he's only going to get better. Doncic is a no-brainer. He's very, very good. But of last year's draft class, I've said it a few times. I'm probably going to get absolutely slammed for this, but I genuinely think that it's not going to be Zion as the guy. I don't know. Everyone was comparing him to Shaq, and my whole comp the whole time, and this is no. I'm not diminishing Zion. If he actually becomes Sean Kemp, like I said, that's his comp. That's a bloody good comp. Like Sean Kemp is a great player. He made like finals. He came up against Jordan. He just couldn't beat Jordan. But if it wasn't for injuries, like his longevity would have been much longer in the league. But I just think Morant is probably going to be the one. He's got good pieces around him. Obviously, JJJ needs to be healthy and stuff. But Morant's more aware, and this is not me trying to criticize Westbrook, but based on his resume, Westbrook's resume, I don't think he was as aware as what Morant is in terms of like, I think he's got that awareness. And I just think, honestly, if Westbrook had that awareness in terms of like game sense that Morant had, he probably would have won titles with KD. It's just, yeah, Morant, I think, understands that I'm not going to jack up a three with 3 guys on me in a crucial moment. He's like, I'm going to try and find the option. Kind of like LeBron. I want to win the game. Like, so I think Morant's probably a really good guy to collect. And my biggest sleeper is actually any rookie product or any product with the rookies for this season. I just think that everyone's saying it's going to be a terrible draft class, and I mentioned it a couple times. Last year's draft class, outside of Zion, like we had a phenom in Zion and the hype around him from high school. And Morant was really good in college. He was a good high school player, but really good.
Particularly showed out in March Madness. That's
yeah,
where he really
that's
made
correct.
his name.
Like I said, based on this draft class, they didn't get March Madness, and the media couldn't create their narratives like they've done in history. When it comes to that's the biggest tournament for college sport outside of obviously college football and the bowl games that they have over there. So they didn't get that opportunity, and all these guys, and that's why LaMelo Ball obviously there's so much hype. He was actually playing in Australia at the time, so you could actually watch him and see what he was doing. But I genuinely think from last year, sorry, it's last year now because this year's LaMelo, but last year's, in my opinion, is like we had Zion and Ja, but I keep saying you can't be a person that came out and said that like Sekou Doumbia, people are going to collect him, Rui Hachimura, Tyler Hero. You were never going to say, oh yeah, these guys were really good. You look back at the draft class, if these guys become something, and go, what a draft class, it was unbelievable. But nobody ever said they were going to be guns like they are now. Like the focus was on two guys. I just think they didn't get the narrative. These guys that missed out due to COVID, obviously two guys, well, the couple guys were obviously Hayes, because he played in France, Advija, who's obviously an international, and then Ball, RJ Hampton were playing, so we got to see them. People slept on Wiseman. He was the number one pick the whole entire time. And then obviously he got his ban, college ban. He missed 12 games, whatever it was. He came back, he played a couple, and then they went on, like, they locked down the whole league. So everyone changed on him. I just think we're going to be very surprised. My whole thing is just don't sleep on this draft class. Just because, yeah, you think they're rubbish because you're basing it on two guys that had the hype around them because they got their March Madness and they dominated college. These guys didn't get that opportunity. So, and my big pick is Cole Anthony. That's the one just to watch out for. So Saucy, it's Saucy.
Oh yes. So I was just in terms of a product that I like to collect that I think is still like super reasonable price point is the absolute memorabilia product set. I just think the cards look clean. There are some inserts in there that do meet the eye, but I like the clean look of the card. I like the border. It's just like simple, and they've got like a foil variant in. I think there's like a hobby in the hobby release. There's like a foil variant, so that's more what I like to try and go for, the foil variant around the border. I just think that product's been around for a while. People don't want to. They don't seem to like it as much as maybe I do, but I like the clean look of it, and that's why I think I gravitate towards Optic. Like I was probably buying more Optic than the whole Prism hype. Like I've never understood the whole Prism hype, but also you can't be ignorant and be like, I'm not going to buy any Prism because you're probably cheating yourself out of quite a few dollars that you could then, if you didn't really like Prism, well, sell your Prism stuff and go buy a lot more Select or Optic or Absolute like I buy. So I like the Absolute stuff, and especially some of the thicker cards that are numbered. Like I bought a nice Zion, I think it was numbered to 199, Absolute, and it's got like a orange foil border. So I think that set, because it's been around for a little bit, it just probably hasn't gotten the traction. There are some cards in it, like there's the Tools of the Trade sort of patch thing that I think looks awful, but that you get some of those in across sets. But yeah, that for me personally, I like that set. Like I'm trying to give something out there. Not everyone can go buy the numbered Prism variants, but hey, you probably could go pick up a numbered Absolute variant that's got a nice foiling around it and has got that shine, and it's probably going to cost you 1/5 of the price. So yeah, if you PC a guy, like that's a set you can pick up for a reasonable price. And then in terms of the guy that I can't wait to see you play, it's around that Memphis team, and it's Jaron Jackson. I think he's going to be like I'm betting on him to like potentially win the most improved player this season. We've seen a small sample size coming into the bubble before he got injured, where he averaged 25 points a game and was, clearly you could tell him and Jar. It's going to be, him and Jar running that pick and roll at the top. Ja Morant attacking the rim and Jaron Jackson popping out for the three. And he, I arguably think he's probably up there with one of the best 7-footer. I think he's 7 foot or he's close to it. At the guy at that height in the league that can shoot the three, he's probably in the top three. In terms of his percentages, you can go have a look at his percentages. And when you're that high and in the NBA where you've got so much switching, and when they switch out and he pops out to the 3-point line and you've got the point guard closing you out or the shooting guard, and you're 6'11", nearly 7 foot, and you jump up, and then you're 7'4" by the time you jump up and release your shot, no one is going to block you, right? So you're just going to be able to he's going to be able to fire off threes like no tomorrow. And the guy, I mean, he's shot 5+ threes multiple times in games. There was one game in the past season where I think he hit 7 threes in the third quarter or 6 threes in the third quarter. He was just unbelievable, just shooting lights out, like literally letting it fly like he's Klay Thompson. And I was like, he's only 20 or 21, and he's got this talent already. I think he's just waiting for his game to go to the next level. And what a better team to do it, like no better team than to do it with Ja Morant, who's, showing that his game's already at an NBA level, and he's just going to improve. So that whole team around Memphis, I'm excited for that team, like in general. Yeah, I just think he's going to win the most improved player, and that's my pick for this coming season. I've stocked up on him. I've got quite a few cards. I picked up probably one of my biggest purchases to date, which was I think it's the blue disco variant. I'm not exactly sure. And the prism variant's numbered. Of course, securing those numbered. Not that I'm a big fan of the prism, but anything color matching the jersey. So it's like blue and he's wearing the blue jersey. I just think it looks so sweet. So I picked up that, and that's probably that. And yeah, I mean, I like SGA as well, but SGA will take a bit more time to develop, especially them trading away their pieces. But I think it's a good opportunity for him to show his potential and what he can do to lead the team now with Chris Paul moving on. But, JJJ's the guy. I'm talking Jaron Jackson Jr. I think he's going to take his game to the next level this season.
Do you think Memphis will make the playoffs?
They more than can. Like it's more than possible. Like what can you say about other than potentially I would say I would call Los Angeles, both Lakers teams. That, well, we don't know what's going to happen in Houston, so we don't know if they're keeping their players or not, so I'm not going to put them in there. I would say Denver, Portland, and in that on the other side on that West, I would have said Golden State, but we don't really know how they're going to go. So I'd probably say that there are the 4 teams that I'm going to say are lock playoff spots. Lock. I'm calling, like, as long as Portland stays healthy. You've seen what they were able to do. They struggled with health, but if they stay healthy and CJ stays healthy and they don't got injuries to a whole bunch of guys. I mean, they lost Nurkic, they lost Zach Collins, they lost a whole bunch of guys throughout the season, and they were playing with it was just pretty much Dame Dollar's brilliance that got them to the playoffs in the end. I think they're a lock to get to the playoffs. So I would say those 4 teams. The rest, it's open. I think any teams, I'm not sold on the Suns. I understand you got CP3 and anything. I think, yeah, you've got more chance of making the playoffs than you did last season. But also, you still need that chemistry to work. You still need, string games together. And that will take a bit of time to work itself out. But they're the only 4 teams that I'm going to say are a lock to make the playoffs. And the rest is open. And Memphis is more than capable to sneak into that, 6th to 8th spot. I don't see why they can't. And I'm not going to say Houston's a guarantee because we don't know what they're doing with their players. So until, if Harden's the only one that stays and they don't get, and they got Harden and they put some pieces around him, well, they'll probably make the playoffs because they got Harden. Do they have a chance at winning a title or doing anything relevant? No, not really. So that's probably where I sit.
Before we do finish up, we'll talk a bit of trade news and any players that you think that have moved to a different team that you think now potentially could get a rise or could
Give
get
them some hobby relevance, as they like
some
to
hobby
say.
relevance. I know that Source, he hasn't moved teams, but we did want to bring it up because, well, I wanted to bring it up because I wanted your opinion, Chris. But Saucy's boy, Andrew Wiggins, he's on him. He's all over him. I said it's a wait and see, but it's definitely it's a definite now that he's going to play because Clay's injured. He doesn't look like he's going to get traded, so there's a lot of opportunity for him. And obviously, we had just a mountain of moves during this period, which has been crazy. That's why we love the off season just as much as we love the regular season and the playoffs. So, any thoughts or any tips on any players you reckon will rise or they'll fall based on?
There's two questions there. One is like what has happened already, and then the other one is what will happen going forward. I can tell you what has happened already is that Chris Paul's Topps Chrome PSA 10 rookie has doubled in the last 2 weeks. It went from 600 to 1,200.
Wow.
I can tell you that Ayton is up 80% in the last 2 weeks, whether you're looking at his Prism Base or his Prism Silver. Devin Booker, I saw that his hoops set a record high yesterday. His Revolution rookie card, which is a beautiful card. 2015 Revolution, in my opinion, is the best design, both from the photo selection and from the creative artistic dimensions. I think 2015 Revolution is the best design product they have, and it has some great rookies. It has Jokic, it has Booker, it has lots of guys in there. That card, a PSA 10, which like the pop is like $9, just sold for $400 not long ago. So like Booker is rising also. Booker Prism Silver Raw sold for just over $1,000 yesterday, which is an all-time high. So like the Suns, their big prospects CP3 is not a prospect, but their big pieces are all rising.
In anticipation, people are thinking that they're going to have a decent season, probably their bubble form rolling into, adding some better players. Their team has 100% gotten better by adding CP3, and then potentially that allows, I keep saying, we've said that it will allow Devin Booker to focus more on his scoring and have to focus less on facilitating and leave that more to the role of CP3, which is his what he does best, and that will allow Booker to be a true shooting guard and actually score more points than having to facilitate. So I can see how this is all tying in. And it makes sense why their cards will be, and people will be getting excited about their cards.
Definitely. So there were 2 teams last year that ended up not making the playoffs in the West, but that were firmly in the race for the first month and a half until injuries happened and sort of hobbled their team, or a player got suspended in the Suns' case. It was the Suns. They were firmly in the playoff race, and the Timberwolves. I remember the Timberwolves Twitter account had a very cocky tweet that they sent out, like, mocking people who said that they weren't going to make the playoffs. And then, of course, they don't make the playoffs. Towns gets injured and everything else. But whereas the Suns, we're seeing increases in their prices, nothing comes to mind about Russell, Towns. I don't see any of their studs seeing any love in the hobby marketplace at all right now. So is that a place where, people are sleeping a little bit? Maybe. De'Aaron Fox is going up right now, and so is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I think there's one commonality there. Both of their teams got worse, especially Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They got unambiguously worse. They lost everybody. Gallo, CP3.
Not a lot of picks, though.
Schroeder. Yeah, they're very good 10 years from now or 5 years from now.
Yeah, when SGA is retiring, good.
But the hobby is like going up. Like SGA is going up, and I think the one strain of thought is like his stats are just going to be crazy this year. But is that true? Is it, without CP3, playmaking and defenses are going to be like focused on SGA? Will his stats go up? I think it's an open question. But what's not an open question is, are the Thunder going to suck? And the answer is yes, they're going to be terrible. So I think people should just think about this stuff when depending on how many Shai Gilgeous-Alexander cards you want to be holding going into the season. Trae Young is the hottest player in the hobby over the last month. And I wonder, is it coincidence, or did the hobby sort of anticipate that the Hawks were going to make some pretty big offseason moves? So they added Gallinari. They stole Bogdanovich from the Bucks, which would have been such a big get for the Bucks, but they stole him away. They landed Bogdanovich, and you know people are like thinking, okay, you're gonna have Collins and you're gonna have Capella and you're gonna have Bogdanovich. I hear that Gallinari is actually going to come off the bench and back up Collins, but maybe he'll be in the starting lineup. You're going to have Trae. You've got Rondo coming off the bench. So people are like, I put an Instagram story out maybe a week ago after these moves were being finalized. And I said, who will have a better record this season, Hawks or Raptors? And people picked the Hawks by a 55-45 margin. And the Raptors, you know, you're talking Siakam, Lowry, Van Vliet, Powell, Boucher, like they still had their core pieces. They did lose a couple of guys, Gasol and stuff, but like they still have all their core pieces. But the hobby is very high on the Atlanta Hawks right now. So, and I wonder, like, did Trae's market go up because people were just speculating on him and they were going to do it anyway, or did people sort of like have confidence that the Hawks were going to become a playoff team? The Hawks probably will make it into the bottom of the playoffs, so that's something to think about. Kelly Oubre's prices have been going up. Tatum's prices have been going up. Morant sets records damn near every day right now. His prices are super hot. Zion is flat. Zion was trending up for a little while, and he's flatlined. And Luka is setting records too. It's almost weird to talk about Luka in the same breath as some of these other guys, just because the hobby is so overly high on him that is he even a prospect in the eyes of the hobby right now? Like, or has he?
He's in GOAT talks already, isn't he?
I know. Like he's like being seen as like Mike Trout or something. Like baseball makes huge. It's also just part of baseball collecting. They don't worry as much about titles. They look at stats and like, you know, they're treating Luka like Trout like right now. But also Luka is going to have to deliver the goods. And like, if there's anything we learned from Giannis, like even winning back-to-back MVPs is not enough to maintain a nonstop upward trajectory. Like, you got to just continually exceed expectations. And he's already a slight favorite in many sports books to win MVP. So if he does anything less than that, it's kind of a letdown. But I am encouraged because John did not mention Dallas among his teams to make the playoffs one way or the other. And I like that because it shows that the expectations on Dallas are still not too high. So that's good for the hobby. You don't want too high of expectations. You never want that. You want to have low expectations a player can overcome.
Yeah, right. And look, I still think there is still in a learning phase. And in my opinion, the moves that Dallas did, they didn't improve on their team from last season. So they've either stayed at the same or they've gotten less. Now you got to realize that some of those guys there, they got Finney Smith, and there's another guy that they have on the wing. They had career shooting years last year. Career shooting years, meaning the best they've ever shot from three in their whole career.
Yep.
Do they equal that or get better than that this season? Well, if they don't, they're going to regress, right? So you need to understand that if they can't shoot as well as they did last season from outside, what are teams going to do? They're going to double team Luka. They're going to make it harder for him, force other guys to make those shots, and they're not making them at the same clip as they were last season. Well, they're not going to do as well. Like, it's just it. And their team, in my opinion, losing Seth Curry. Like, I mean, Seth Curry is a lights out 3-point shooter, which helps Luka when he's on the floor because it gives someone that you can pass it to off the double team that's going to kick down a shot, more times than not. It hasn't helped it by getting rid of him. So I just feel that they're probably not at that level. And you got Porzingis, who's not going to be ready for the start of the season, potentially coming back mid-January or something like that is his timetable around then. So he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season. And you don't know, maybe that's enough for them to, first 8-9 games and they only win 2 and they're already starting with 2-6 record. You're starting behind the 8 ball. Can they still make the playoffs? Yes, they can because they made the playoffs last year. But I think they'll be in that sort of that 6 to 8 range of playoffs, which is what they ended up 7th or 6th last season.
6th, I'm pretty sure.
6th. So it's they're in the same bracket. I think they can make the playoffs, but there's teams improving. Phoenix is improving. On that side. So, here's another team that's going to step in. You've got OKC's definitely dropping out. They're not going to do anything this season. But Portland's going to be a hell of a lot better than what they were as long as they can stay healthy. I really believe in that team. I think Portland are a super slept on team. There was a point there where, a while back when I happened to pick up a Damian Lillard base prison BGS 9.5 for a measly 185 USD. And I happened to sell it right at the peak after he dropped 60 points and back-to-back 50-plus for 1,300. So I like to give myself a pat on the back. I like to give myself a pat on the back on that one. Sorry to the guy out there who bought it in some country town in Victoria who bought it out in some country town. I apologize, man, but I had to sell it. But yeah, I just think they're going to be better than people think. And Zach Collins was a massive miss last year. He helped their team the season before on the rotations. He's a guy who can rotate. He's a lot better at moving laterally than Nurkic and other guys at the 4 spot. And he blocks shots better than people give it credit for. So he provides rim protection and he can knock down the 3 ball, which allows spacing on the floor, which always helps CJ and Lillard. So I think they're going to be good. I think they could potential to finish in the top 4. I was saying Golden State were a lock for top 4, but now with Clay's injury, I'm not going to say that. If they are to make top 4, Stephen Curry has to have a unanimous MVP type season like he has had previously. He's going to have one of those type of seasons for them to make it into the top 4 of the playoffs. Can they still make the playoffs? Yes, they can, but new team, they got some gelling to do. And I just hope, I was really excited for Andrew Wiggins. I was picking up his base prisms for $15 to $20 each, expecting them to make the playoffs and make a push and then see his cards sort of rise. And I was hoping to flip some of them later. Is that plan probably still in the cards now? I'm probably a little bit worried. But I've bought the cards now, so there's nothing I can do. And that's where it comes back to you can't project these things in the hobby. You can't project that the Clay's going to come back and then off an ACL and then snap his Achilles. And it's sad for all the Clay collectors out there. And I keep putting the warning out there. People need to realize that we might not ever see the Clay Thompson that we know and we love. The Clay Thompson that dropped 37 in a quarter. We may not never see that Clay Thompson again. The days of that Clay Thompson could be done. Achilles, ACL, back to back. It's really tough to come back. He'll still come back and have an impact. Will he be the elite defender that we've seen previously? Most likely not. Your lateral movement's going to suffer with those types of injuries. So it's all part of the game, Chris, isn't it? So it's tough. It's sad to see, but it's a reality in the hobby that you need to think about, and that's why we keep saying don't put all your eggs in one basket in terms of prospects and things.
I think from my end, for what's going to happen potentially, I'd say buyers beware just for Brooklyn for the beginning. Just hold off for a little while. If you are really hot on Karis LeVert, I think he's a guy that will go down. He's not going to... A lot of people have been talking about Brooklyn dominated in the bubble and they played really, really well. You got to remember they didn't have any of their players. No one was playing. Karis LeVert was KD in that team. Karis LeVert will not be KD and he will not be getting 25 shots a game. He'd be lucky to shoot the ball 13 times a game. So I see him really dropping next year. Another one, potential drop, which is actually a concern because I actually like the player because I'm a Miami fan. But I think none, based off like Hero's dominance in the playoffs, I reckon none. Obviously, he had COVID. He came back. He started playing pretty well towards like Eastern Conference Finals and Finals. But adding Austin Rivers and adding Avery Bradley, it's the fact that we added two S guards to the team, especially Avery Bradley. He's probably going to start. I don't know where the depth goes there because we re-signed Dragic. So, and then Hero is obviously the number one option there before Nunn. And I'm going to say that Bradley's at the number two option anyway ahead of Nunn because he's a better defender. So I reckon he may suffer, which I really hope not because he has shown a lot. And a lot of people PC him and collect him a fair bit. But concern there. I think Dallas, just on them, I understand that they will struggle without Porzingis in the beginning. I genuinely reckon when you got a fully fit Porzingis, obviously Luka, I just think they're one elite point guard away from really, really troubling every team in the West. As you mentioned, Luka does get that double team, and he literally runs a lot of the plays. If he's obviously the most talented kid we've seen in a very, very long time, and he can definitely play off the ball. I just think getting the ball out of his hands on not him not running every play on every possession.
Him not having the ball in his hands 90% of the time.
Let's just put it this way. If they got Drew Holiday, for example, Mavericks got Drew Holiday, I reckon we'd be talking very, very differently moving into this season about the Dallas Mavericks. Like, you just think about it that way. I think the Bucks, Giannis will have listened to John a fair bit in the podcast. I know he listens to the show, well, I hope, about trying to get a mid-range shot. I reckon he will get that mid-range jumper, and I reckon if he gets it, there will be a force to be reckoned with. But if you like PCing Giannis's cards, just Milwaukee cards, him in a Milwaukee jersey, I think you'll be PCing him in potentially another jersey if they don't win it this year. I reckon he's gone. Honestly, I reckon he's gone. Other guys, I'm not surprised, Chris, that you mentioned Zion has literally plateaued a bit. He had all that time off and all that time, really, a lot of other athletes were there working out and working on their game as much as possible. And he came back, and not for anything, he looked, in my opinion, heavier and slower than when they went on the break. So, like I said, just beware with Zion. Don't put all your eggs in that basket. I'm not trying to be a cynic. I actually want him to be really good. And as people said, he's going to be the second coming of LeBron. And it's like, yeah, cool. That's great. So was Wiggins. And what's he done? So you just got to hold off and relax a bit. Like I said, he's Sean Kemp. I hope he's Sean Kemp that doesn't get injuries. And he'll have a fantastic career. If he does get that, I'm a bit concerned. But they're pretty much it. But yeah, my biggest guy, I haven't got anyone, like Cole Anthony was the guy I said. I reckon Orlando, he's going to get a lot of minutes. I reckon he's literally a big-time player, and I reckon he'll mix it with the big boys better than he did in college with kids his age. He's just got that intensity about him, which I love. He goes 100 million miles an hour, and he's so intense, but he's so super aware of what his game is. And, yeah, I love that in a guy. And I think RJ Hampton is a massive steal as well for the Denver Nuggets. Like, him getting traded there, he's a scorer. He's a guy that now has a chip on his shoulder. He did come out and say that he thought he was the best player in the draft. I don't know if it's him being... You need a bit like a healthy arrogance about your game. You know, you're trying to get yourself up there on the draft table and get drafted as a high pick. But I think be wary of him, and I reckon Michael Porter Jr. will be very, very good this season. He's got a lovely stroke when he shoots the ball. He just needs to fix his defense and he'll be okay.
He's going to get more opportunity because they've moved some guys out. You know, Torrey Craig gone and Jeremy Grant gone. You know, that will definitely affect their defensive side of the ball, but will now improve their offensive side of the ball because MPJ will probably stay on the court more and get more shots, and he's shown what he's all about on the offensive end. And let's hope we get the number one favorite guy that everyone loves in in the hobby, Mr. Bol Bol. Let's hope he gets some more game time and see what he can do. I actually think it would be an interesting thing, like seeing him and Jokic running next to each other. You got two absolutely ginormous humans out there that can both stroke the three pretty good. And then it'd just be interesting. Like, I'd love to see it. I just think it would just be something cool to see. And yeah, I want Bol Bol to get some more game time because everyone in the hobby just loves saying his name, Bol Bol.
Well, that's it. That's pretty much it for me. If there's any last comments from yourself, Chris.
One quick question, Chris. Who's winning the Super Bowl this season?
Chiefs.
I'm sticking with the Saints. My tip from the start of the season was the Saints. Breeze is injured. If they can stick it through with Taysom Hill till Breeze gets back, let's see.
I'm gonna stick with San Francisco, like I said at the start of the season. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Saints. Apparently, their defense has stepped it up quite a bit lately. If they can keep on winning games with Taysom Hill, I think that says a lot about the team as a whole. But I think the Saints are going to be a great pick coming out of the NFC. But they still might get some trouble along the way from the Bucs. We never know what Tampa Bay team is going to show up. The Saints obviously destroyed the Bucs not long ago, but you never know what Tampa Bay team is going to show up. The Cardinals are a weird team that feels like they can beat anybody. And the Packers, the Packers have some big wins on their resume and some crappy losses. So, like, I see the Saints, but the Chiefs, that team is so well-rounded. They will still have to get past Pittsburgh probably and some good teams. But the Chiefs they've already proven they can do it. They got the same guys coming back. Mahomes is kind of unbelievable.
He's a freak. So good.
Yeah, it just looks like the Chiefs are.
His card prices are a bit too cheap, aren't they? Like, I feel that they could be one
relative
of the more
the basketball stars. Yeah, he's cheap.
Like in comparison, think about what he's accomplished compared to Luka and what his cards are going for that prize. I mean, he's already won a Super Bowl. He hasn't yet to win an MVP. I don't think. He's going to win one for sure at some point or multiple.
Yes.
Like, come
Maybe
on.
This year. Yeah.
Yeah.
A funny story actually about Kansas. It's actually not basketball related. I just want to give props to one man. I don't know his name. It's a quick story. When I was on my honeymoon last year, I was in New York City, and we were walking through Soho, and this guy came around the corner, white t-shirt over his shoulder, and he was literally spreading the word, and he was just yelling out, and everyone's like, "What's he talking about?" And the closer I got to him, all he kept saying was, "Put your faith in our God, Mahomes. I've traveled all the way from Kansas City. We're winning the Super Bowl this year. Put your money on it." That's what he kept yelling all the way up the street. I hope that man, you put your whole 401k on the Chiefs like you were preaching last year, because he was bloody damn right. I was laughing at this bloke going, "Nah, Mahomes win a Super Bowl." And I tell you what, that's the memory. The moment they won it, that's the first thing I thought of. I go, "That's why." He was carrying on. Everyone's like, "What's this guy carrying on about, mate? Just be quiet." And realistically, he was bloody right. I hope that guy's out there and he's just living his life on his bloody luxury yacht because he put all his money where his mouth was. But Mahomes is a freak, man. He's so good. I love watching him play. I said it to John on the podcast on Wednesday. He's the guy that you can get in front of the Kansas City Chiefs, but when you get in front of them, you want to get in front when there's less than 30 seconds on the clock. Do not give that guy a 2-minute drill and 2 minutes to win you a football game, because you will not beat him. He's that good. It's just scary. It's actually so scary.
It starts to feel like Jordan a little bit in the 90s, when you just knew that he's going to find a way to win. It's just going to happen.
100%. 100%. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much, Chris, for jumping on. We really, really do appreciate it. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, we will look forward to collaborating, hopefully a fair bit down the track. And
sure.
We'll never forget that you were one of the top 10, mate. We'll get that card made for you, mate.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. It was a blast.
Thank you so much. You will be able to. I'll tag Chris and the relevant accounts in the description for this video when it comes out. Source will probably release this on IGTV in snippets as well. But stay tuned throughout the week for all the promos. But thank you once again. Keep living, loving, breathing all sports. It's double coverage. It's been Dom, Source, and
Thank
Chris.
you, Chris.
Thank you so much. And peace out, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave a review on the Apple Podcasting app. Also, follow us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Talking all sports, double coverage.